Hello everyone, Darkfather here. This time with a new Wolcen build. This is the toxic version of the Summoner, and in my opinion it's one of the, if not the best starter build, and I will explain later why. Thank you to Onjay from Twitch for his great tips in building this one up. If you like it, consider following and like for more. Please comment if you have questions or suggestions on how to improve the build. Also, joining me on Twitch will be great. Let's do a small build overview. The Material Minion build is a minion build that focuses on toxic damage. I believe it's better than the Shadow one for a few reasons. The unique you are going to use it in Endgame has no penalties to damage. The toxic nodes are on the Summoner tree. Material damage scales better with everything here, and we also have the Gods Among Us node, which is raising quite some of our damage. Now, you will not have skills to fire, but you will duplicate 2 minion skills, each of them 3 times, to spawn multiple minions that do damage for you, while you just run around and loot and throw toxic spores around. Therefore, the build name. It's a great starter because it's slightly ahead other builds, can work with less gear, and also, the most important part, it allows you, while your minions are out, to actually play any skill in the game in parallel, so you can discover any other build, because the reality is that you can let 2 or 3 minions out and use the rest of the 2 slots for other spells or attacks, so you can play anything. Let's look a little bit on what it matters for this. Damage modifiers. Summons scale with almost everything. Most important ones are flat damage of the weapon, flat damage to spells, skill damage multipliers, and as there spell ones, projectiles, material ones, toxic ones, percentage damage to anything, summon, damage, spell, projectile, 1 or 2-handed weapons depends on what you use. Again, percentage damage type to material or toxic, and also the projectile specific ones. Adding 1 more projectile, for example, or 2, it's amazing as well. Projectile pills as well is pretty good because it's allowing you to do a better job in AoE. And also some ailment modifiers are working as well. Let's see a little bit about how do we want to configure our 8 attributes. Now, nothing here helps us. This critical chance doesn't apply to summons, attack speed doesn't. Ailment chance, I believe it doesn't, but the damage does. Something to check later. Toughness, of course, doesn't affect them, but affects us. However, the only thing which is affecting the damage is this one, attribute bonus damage, which is actually coming from adding everything together. So because the first 3 are not so cool for us, we take toughness, and that's it. We become healthier, bigger force shield, and bigger damage. And that's all you need to know about attributes. Let's go a little bit and see the skills option, and this is an interesting thing to discuss about. The standard way to play it is with 3 Livor Mortis and 3 Hunting Swarms. I will not put them 3 here for now, just to see the options. So what you want to do is to have 3 Livor Mortis on Toxic. In general, we set them up for damage absorption, in such a way that they take damage for us, and also they are taking out the aggro from the mobs. Also, I like to run with this one. It's making frenziness around, so why not? You can play around. It's not a big deal. The second one we want to use, it's the Hunting Swarm, and this is the real damage dealer for us. And we set everything just for damage, as you can see here. Now, you have other options which are very, very interesting. For example, what you may want to use is the Skirmish. You may want to use Skirmish instead of this, Skirmish instead of this. Probably I want to use the Duplicate skill, by the way. So, and you may want to use the third one, by the way, Toxic, all of them. And you may want to use Skirmish in this way, which is set up for damage as well. And in this way, you have a full setup of damage, and you do damage all the way. Or, as you see me before, you can try to do something related with buffing. Why? Because this buff amazingly works for minions. And also this buff here works for minions as well. Right? I will let you a little bit to see how is being set up, this one and this one. This is the most important part because you don't want to do damage with it. At the beginning where you level, by the way, you may want to consider doing it differently a little bit here, and you can play around. It's not a big deal. Now, important part, this one needs to be toxic as well because it's giving you damage to toxic. So make this sure that this is toxic to make sure you are giving the buff for the rest. I don't know if we need to discuss anything about skills. I guess we'll discuss a little bit when we are talking leveling, and you will see some options there at that moment. Let's talk about Gate of Fate. And for our gameplay, maybe I will use the classical I'm not going to do anything type of gameplay. Or maybe, you know what? Let's use for the gameplay. I'm on duplicate. Let's use for the gameplay only one of those and two of these. So we have a very DPS oriented one with a little bit of mitigation. Right? I don't know if it's going to work, by the way. This is live, not live stream, but it's live registered, and I will not do any editing after that. Next one, Gate of Fates. First of all, let's see the orientation. So I have here Scholar, Ranger, and EOS. Right. Let me explain the main things you want to have. So in general, as we've seen, we need to go on spell damage and projectile damage and summons. Very, very easy. We have a lot of spell damage here. We have a lot of projectile damage in the Ranger. We also have an interesting node which is giving you more damage when you are not close to the mobs. This is interesting because in some places like Onslaught, you may not have enough room. So this might not be effective. If you play open maps, you can find places where you can hide away 6 meters away, or maybe only 4 meters if you decide to take this one. It might be quite effective. It's up to you to decide a little bit. One interesting note is the beacon for the lost, which is just giving you a flat 25 plus 35% damage when your shield is above 50%, and you can keep that usually up. Another interesting node is the smoke here. When you dodge, you get 30% skill damage. And by the way, it's not until you fire another skill, because we don't really fire other skills ourselves, don't we? It's as long as you are in shade. So 5 seconds continue of 30%. You can take even this one, which is increasing that to 8%. Then you have everything which is related to summon damage. One note here, I'm not taking the defensive nodes, but I may consider in the future because I've seen my summons die quite quickly. So I may lose more DPS by taking DPS nodes than taking those. So make your balance and checks as well and see what you like. Toxic emanations are very, very important if you have the trial belt, because you don't hit, so you don't trigger it yourself. So you need this node to apply poison, and so therefore apply that stack of curse on the enemies. The next node, it's very, very interesting because it's slowing enemies and works it works very, very well with this one, 20% damage to slow enemies. So a cool combo. Again, consider when you are going, if you reach here, to reach here kind of in the same time, so you benefit actually from those, right? Another node to consider is this one, which I'm not taking because I have targeting rings, but you want to take it as you level ASAP. It's lowering your projectile-based damage, but it's giving you one more. And as you have only one at the beginning, guess what? You do a minus 30%, so you reach let's say 70% of the damage, but you get one more projectile, so you double that damage, which means 140%. So you get a 40% increase of damage out of this one at the beginning, right? Then you have other nodes like 1% damage per remaining rage point, which is not very important in the beginning, but becomes important here when you change your willpower regeneration into rage. So that means you will have non-stop full rage, because you don't use skills, you have non-stop full rage in late game, right? Very good defensive node to take later. I'm not going to explain it, you can read that. I would suggest that to take in late game when you really want not to die to finish some important maps, right? A good overall the damage boost. We are not firing ourselves, so we don't consume those points. So you will have the buff non-stop. And I think those are the main ones. Did I miss anything? Let's see. Toxic, Arrow, and Summon were the main points. No, perfect. That's everything we wanted. So let's move on. I think the next piece for us will be to see the gear options. So let's look a little bit here. What I did, I'm showing you the gear I have, but also options you need to take decision as you are leveling. So for this build to work amazingly in the end game, you want Wormtooth. You want Wormtooth because this one is allowing you to use toxic skills even if you don't have Catalyst or Staff. Why it's important? Because if you don't use a Catalyst or Staff, you can use 2 Abolitions, which are amazing for DPS. Amazing. Both of them with percentage spell damage, because we've seen this is very important. So this is endgame. Don't bother about it if you don't have it, but this is what you want at the end stage. Now, in terms of accessories, you want something with spell skill damage. This one, it's a good one, but by the way, takes away 20% health. So if you want to be on the safe side, you probably want to use this one, which gives the same, but takes away wisdom. So you lose attributes, therefore you lose some damage, around 5% maybe. I didn't do a perfect calculation, but still. You want to use the Fist of Cankers at the end game. You want to use the Archhunt at the end game. You want to use something with damage per remaining rage points at the end game, right? Because again, we have a full rage almost non-stop, or non-stop if you don't use any buffs. So 4% damage per 100 is better than what I have if it has some damage, right? But I found this one, which is pretty good. Endgame, you want to use Trial, but that's not mandatory, by the way, for this build. Abolition, as I've seen, some pants with material damage, and if you can have Odelia's March, that will be great. I jump over the wings by mistake. You have 2 options here. Sunny Stash, which is giving you a lot of damage, and we can see that here, right? Let me put this one back so we can make the comparison versus the beginning of the game. We are close to 500k per projectile, right? It's per projectile. Remember, those guys are 3, and each of them, they have 1 projectile now. Those are 4 each of them. They have less damage, but they are 4. So this is damage per projectile. Now, damage per projectile is nice, and Sunny is very nice, but look at this one. I'm losing some projectile damage, but I'm getting 2 projectiles. So if I put this one, I go to 300, but I get 3 times more. So I get 900 damage out of 1 skeleton, out of 1 of them, right? Because there are 3 of them. And if I put this one in, I get 200 multiplied by 5, so it's 1 million. So that's debatable a little bit here. The second targeting ring overall, it's a bit better than a Sunny, but with the Sunny, you have a more focused firing range. So I don't know. you need to decide, right? So a Sunny and the one is good enough. I feel like this is better anyway for AoE, but you may decide for yourself later on. Now again, you will not have any of those when you start. Nothing of here is going to be available for you, of course. But that's not a problem. As we said, you need to figure out a way to run your spells, so you need a catalyst, right? You take whatever you can with, and I will show you again just to make sure, so I don't read everything again. But you try to get gear which has the modifiers you've seen here. So for example, as big as attack as you can, spell damage and everything you've seen on my screen. Headpiece, for example, is material damage. I have again here material damage. I have an amazing belt, for example, which adds quite a few of them. You see damage to spells, projectile damage, material damage, and spell damage in one. An amazing one was for me, this one for weeks and weeks. You can put a headpiece, as I said, which has material damage, or you can find the 15% projectile damage multiplier one. By the way, if somebody's on PC and wants 1 or 2, I think I have 2 or 3 which are a spare, so I can give it to you. An interesting piece is this one. Allows you to use toxic skills and adds toxic damage to spells. If you don't have this worm tooth, you may consider using this one instead of knife and catalyst to be tested if it's good enough. Again, material damage you can find here, right? Flat percentage damage, not flat, percentage damage as I said before, material damage. This one, it's occult, is not for this build, right? So again, you have a lot of options as you do level and find items to gear up. Let's go more in depth and see what do you want to do when you level, right? At the beginning, what I suggest you to do is to actually pick up a mage. You'll get a staff, and if I'm not mistaken, I hope I don't, you will get consuming embers, which is a spell and a projectile. And remember, we are speccing into spell and projectiles. How lucky is this? So you take this one, you finalize your tutorial, you go in town, and there you can go and buy Livor Mortis and Hunting Swarm. At least those two. Buy at least those two. You can try to buy, and you can, Feeding Swarm, for example, Parasite, for example, and Skirmish, right? You can buy all 5 and just go around and run with those 5. By the way, Parasite requires you to click to actually use it at the beginning. Another option is to buy only Livor Mortis, Hunting Swarm, Feeding Swarm, keep your consuming embers so you can fight yourself. And because consuming embers is going to consume willpower, you may want to consider a projectile-based skill, which is going to allow you to consume, or if you want, to dump the rage back to willpower. So you fire with those, and then you fire with one of those. I suggest you Iosonic Rain is very, very cool, or Havoc Orb if you want, it's cool as well. You can spec them for damage, AoE, both of them AoE or single target. They are very, very nice. I guess I would say single target Iosonic together with this one, both of them on toxic will be amazing because Iosonic it's actually a very, very good single target, especially if it's buffed by as we said before, this piece here. So you take those, as we said, you go in town, you buy a knife and a catalyst to make sure you can fire both projectiles and spells, and then make sure that at that time your Livor Mortis it's on rend. You want to have it on rend because it fires projectiles as well, and you don't need as you don't have the toxic only, let's say, chest piece, you can use it as a rend, right? So you do the rend piece here. And the beauty again of this one is, as I said, you run, for example, with 3 of them. Again, let me repeat that for you. You run, for example, with Livor Mortis, Hunting Swarm, and Feeding Swarm, for example. And then, for the rest 2 slots you will have at that time, you can run any spell and any projectile you want. And it's going to work wonders for you. So, why I'm saying this is the best starting build? 1, because it's very good. And 2, because it allows you to test the game. So you can play whatever skills you want, right? Very easy. Okay, I think we are done here, so let's do a little bit of gameplay. I don't know what I have actually. So I'm on those rings and I'm on minus health. Let's make sure we don't die while we are doing some demo. I am on a DPS type of thingy. What do we have here? We don't have anything fast, so you know what? I will attack the lieutenant. I'm on DPS-ish mood. Okay, so gameplay, it's pretty simple, especially here I'm on full, I'm not doing anything, right? So all you want to do, you want to dodge so you can get the bonus from your, I forgot the name, right? The shade, whatever skill I've showed you. And you want to be far away from the enemies to get the other bonus here, right? Which I was telling you that it may be good or bad. I think if you have enough DPS and room, you can use it. I'm far away And most of the time I can keep myself far away, but you never know. Oh, we have a guy with a shield. By the way, as any projectile base, we are going to have problems with the shieldy enemies. So let's move around and see. Hopefully we get some fast map to kill, like a headhunt. If not, maybe we do after this one echo, right? Memory echo, just to see how it goes around. Again, you see my summons die quite a lot, so I'm really considering moving to the nodes which are giving its more defense, right? One thing you may notice, you cannot target anything, right? So you need to make sure you stay yourself close to the target, because your summons will follow you if you go far away, and also if they die, they will actually respawn next to you. So if the target is here, I want to stay around him, so when my summons die, they will spawn here, so they will fire him. If there are a lot of mobs around, you may see them firing in different directions. That's quite frustrating with this one, but I think you cannot have everything, right? 14% material damage, not a big thing. I will pick up those pieces. You never know what you get. I should have put my and I should do it now. Let's make sure we put the filter, which is not showing us everything. And look, a bow, a trip bow here. And we go out. Let's see if we have something interesting to play. If not, we will do an echo and we finish this one, because it's already a long video. I have a 3-star head sound. This may go very well or very bad, because if it has a shield, no, this one works pretty well. So this is a 3-star. I'm trying to go away, as I said. You see here it's very crowded. I don't think I'm getting that bonus. And again, I don't think I am able to target him, and because of that, it might take a lot until we kill it. But no, it didn't, right? We can stay a little bit more here to get some extra drops if we get lucky. I suggest you do the same. You see there are some drops here, nothing amazing. And we go back. So this was a 3-star.
Welcome back, my lady. Stormfall's recent
Which was pretty good, I think. You can do with this build, if you want a small tip here, as you may know, you need to do 1000 skulls to get your last attributes and golf points. So you may consider using this build with a 1-star headhunt, and it's actually a very easy experience. It's probably easier than a 3-star, to be honest. Okay, so we finish. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed. Again, please consider follow me on Twitch and YouTube, and leave your comments. Bye bye for now.